Yeah, I have to wonder if AT&T is just doing whatever their investor at Elliott Management is telling them to do, because this is actually a smart thing for them to do. This is coming from Bloomberg. AT&T to scrap sale of Warner Brothers video game unit. They had a successful video game unit. It's actually making damn significant money. And they have a huge debt also. So they were looking at selling this video game unit. But they changed their mind recently, apparently. And they're kind of like, hey, maybe we won't sell this video game unit. It makes sense if you think about it. Because, like, they just hired this guy who used to run marketing for Activision Blizzard in their esports division internationally, and apparently he was pretty successful at doing that, and they put him in charge of DC Comics. So if they're going to put him in charge of DC Comics, and they have so much to do with video games, and they have so much intellectual property, I mean, do you really think if Netflix owned a division that was a successful video game division, they would just sell it for some quick money? Probably not. And Netflix does have a lot of debt too. Well, let's get into the article. This is coming from Bloomberg. Before we do, to support my work, share the video. It's a huge help to me. And also, don't forget, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. I really appreciate it. Okay, AT&T has removed its Warner Brothers video game business from the list of non-core assets up for sale, deciding it was too valuable to unload during its effort to pay down debt and streamline, according to people familiar with the situation. That does make some sense. Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, the gaming unit that is home to titles like Harry Potter, Wizards Unite, and Mortal Kombat 11, had attracted interest from several major companies and could have brought in a good $4 billion, as reported by CNBC in June. But AT&T balked, given this business's success and growth potential, said people asking not to be identified because the information is private. This is where they were originally looking to sell the unit for $4 billion. And when I had heard about it, I was kind of wondering, like, well, I mean, I understand they do need cash. They have less than $200 billion in debt, but they have a lot of debt. They're going to sell their DirecTV division soon for $20 billion. They paid $49 billion for it and assumed $18 billion in debt, which means they really paid like $67 billion for it. So if they sell it for $20, if the debt goes with the sale, which it might, that would be great for them. Not great for whoever's buying it, but great for AT&T to get rid of $18 billion in debt and get some cash. So they need cash wherever they can get it. Maybe they just had an agreement with their investor, Elliott Management, to at least put the word out and try and like get quotes on what these things are actually worth so they can kind of figure things out. Honestly, I don't know. It hasn't really come out yet. But this was the original article. AT&T was considered selling its Warner Brothers gaming division for about $4 billion. Take-Two Interactive, Electronic Arts, and Activision Blizzard were all interested in buying the unit, which owns Mortal Kombat and Harry Potter Wizards Unite. I mean, if they could have sold it, you know, $4 billion is a lot of money. But the truth of it is when you have $200 billion in debt, I mean, like if you owed, let's say, $200,000 in credit cards, which would be a lot, and you could sell something for $4,000, it doesn't really help that much. It really doesn't. Not when the gaming unit is actually successful and it's something that you could make an argument in saying like, well, you know, compare this to what Disney has with their streaming platform. Do they have as dynamic a gaming unit? Does Netflix have a gaming unit? Netflix probably should. They don't. Netflix is very focused on what Netflix does. They refuse to do anything else. They will not do short form video under any circumstances. I heard them talk about that. Amazing to me. But in any case, back to the article. AT&T began working with LionTree Advisors earlier this year to explore a potential sale of the business, according to two people familiar with the matter. LionTree Advisors is an investment banking company for telecom and media businesses, and they basically just help make deals happen, like a real estate agent for multi-billion-dollar companies. Yes, they make a lot of money. Microsoft, Take-Two Interactive, Electronic Arts, and Activision Blizzard were among potential suitors for the asset, these people said. AT&T and Take-Two declined to comment. The other companies didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. The decision to abandon the sale, which could be subject to change, came amid a turnover in senior leadership at AT&T. In July, Chief Operating Officer John Stankey took over as Chief Executive Officer after Randall Stephenson left that role, remaining chairman. Yeah, so Randall Stephenson lost control. They gave it to this guy, John Stankey. AT&T making all these acquisitions was really nuts. It was really nuts. They were just trying to like, hey, let's just spend hundreds of billions of dollars and try to quickly throw together something like Disney real quick. And they didn't have a good strategy for how they were going to integrate DirecTV with DC Comics, with the film studios and cable channels. They didn't even have a strategy. They didn't have management, and they didn't have a strategy. So it's like you can't just buy stuff. And it's like buying ingredients but not knowing how to bake a cake. It doesn't work. At least you need a cookbook, and then you got to kind of follow the instructions. And even if you follow the instructions, if you're not good at making cakes, or at least excellent at following instructions, it's not going to work. Influencing factors. A few factors may have influenced AT&T's retreat from the sale process. Among them is the upcoming release of potentially popular Harry Potter game that allows players to take on roles as different characters and explore the Hogwarts Wizard Academy. To the extent that games has just been booming and booming and booming and booming, why would they want to get out of that business? It just doesn't make... Yes, they need money, but again, $4 billion versus $200 billion. What good is that going to do? And as the health event has closed megaplexes, people are seeking out different sources of entertainment. New video game releases are landing like blockbuster movies. Well, they have been. Video games has been generating more money than blockbuster movies has. It's also possible that AT&T realized that selling the business could be more complicated than it expected. As analysts have pointed out, the amount of licensed content in the games would come with a set of long-term strings attached. So they need to have licensing arrangements with whoever the new owner is. The new owners, it gets complicated because the people who are licensing the rights have to decide it's in their best interests. Sometimes if there's a change in ownership or a change in control, it could give an out for people who own the licensing to pull their license back. That's addressable if they want to. But again, it's silly for them to think about selling it. The Dallas-based phone giant acquired the video game maker in its $85 billion purchase of Time Warner in 2018, which is actually more like $105 billion. Sometimes people, when they talk about a purchase of a company, they sometimes leave out the debt that they assume. What's the debt? The debt is like a mortgage on a house. So if you buy a house for $1 million and it's got a mortgage for $200,000, and you say, okay, I'll pay you $1.2 million for your house so you can pay off your mortgage, and you get to keep $1 million on the house. So you got $1.2 million for the house. If you buy the house for $1 million and say, listen, I will assume your mortgage, and the bank is chill with that, and the bank is like, yeah, it's cool. $200,000 mortgage. I don't care who owes it to me as long as somebody owes it to me. So you pay $1 million cash. You still, because you're assuming the debt obligation, you're still acquiring it for $1.2 million because you still have to pay off that debt. That deal and an earlier acquisition of DirecTV ballooned AT&T's debt, and the company has been looking to ways to cut costs and unload assets. Under Stankey's control, the new CEO, businesses have been reported to be taking bids, including DirecTV, the declining satellite TV service. DirecTV is worth like $5 billion less like every year. They'd better sell that thing quickly. Xandr, the digital advertising unit, and Crunchyroll, the anime streaming service. I do believe they will sell Crunchyroll. I do. I've done some research on it. I haven't done a video on it yet. Crunchyroll, the deal with that is it's an anime site. It is a big anime site. It does have a lot of members. It's not a fantastic business, but it's a place, like it's a niche streaming platform. They do not at Warner Media want to be in a niche streaming platform business. They want to focus on having a mainstream thing. HBO Max is supposed to directly compete with Hulu, directly compete with Netflix. It may never, but that's what it's supposed to do. It's doing so well so far. Crunchyroll is a niche thing. It can't go up against Netflix ever. It can have a following, but it can't go up against Netflix. You can tell what AT&T's and other companies too, what their commitment is to a division by seeing if the division has a general manager or if it has a president. Those are two very different things, like president or CEO versus a general manager. DC Comics has a general manager now, Daniel Cherry. He's a new guy. He starts on September 8th, 2020. He's a general manager. So they don't consider DC Comics to be like its own company. They consider it to be like a division of. Crunchyroll also has a general manager. It's kind of funny. If you go on the general manager's LinkedIn, I was doing some research on them. If you go on her LinkedIn and you look at her LinkedIn background, she says that it's really fun. She says that she's a general manager of Crunchyroll, but like she says, experienced CEO, general manager of Crunchyroll. So she's like, basically, if you want to give me a job as a CEO, I would leave Crunchyroll if I could please have an offer as a CEO. No one's making her a CEO offer. No offense to her, but it is just a little funny how she seems to be pitching herself. Like, hey, does anybody want to make me a CEO? But that said, because it's a little company, it's a niche thing, they'd love to sell it. They just want to get enough money for it that they can actually pay some debt down. Or have some miracle happen and have somebody say, hey, I need an anime streaming service. I'll pay anything for it. And then boom, they can sell it. This is interesting. Stanky told investors in October, we have no sacred cows. We're always open to making portfolio moves. Now, if you're an investor and you have money in AT&T and you're like, look, I don't want them to become obsessed with being a this kind of company or that kind of company, unless they have a great strategy that's actually working. I don't want them to tell me, like, I will never sell Warner Media under any circumstances. It is good that they have an attitude that they have no sacred cows, that they are willing to take great money from one of their divisions if they get it. That is good, but it's also terrible. And the part of it that's terrible is that it tells you they don't actually have a business strategy that includes actually owning these different operating units. Like, you would think that they actually would think about this and be like, well, we actually own Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash, like all the DC characters and all new characters we could create. Because, hey, why not? They could launch and promote some brand new thing even on top of that. They own all of Milestone, which they're going to do another big push for. News. Unfortunately, the actor for Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, died. So there really is no actor that is the black actor that is part of and in charge of a billion-dollar franchise. Is Milestone going to step up and be the next billion-dollar film franchise? Maybe. Well, you'd certainly want to have like a games division around to leverage that, to do something with that, right? So it's not good that it seems like AT&T and Warner Media don't have a strategy enough that they wouldn't sell a division. Now, Jason Kilar, the former head of Hulu, just joined Warner Media a couple of months ago. He started, I think, April 1st or roughly rather than in 2020. That's after October. So I think that Jason Kilar is a pretty sharp guy. He's got a strategy for Warner Media, and he's got a strategy for even how he's going to incorporate DC and all that. And I think they're putting the right people in place. So I don't think Jason Kilar would be big on selling this games unit because it would be ridiculous. Just complete silliness to sell this unit really at any price, because games is growing and it's crucial to their exploitation of their intellectual property, what they're actually good at doing. So this makes sense. This is good. Do not buy AT&T stock. That's my advice. I think their management is still completely lost. I don't think they're a guaranteed winner. I have to admit, I do think stock-wise, Disney is a guaranteed winner. They keep coming up with unique ways of doing what they're doing. And even though they screw up a lot of stuff, I'm a fan of Disney. At least as far as their future stock. So if you had to invest in something, I'd put it in Disney way before AT&T. But that's not investment advice. But I will give you some advice. Give me some comments below. That will help me. Also, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. You can check out my work at collegeofthedead.com and pick up a copy of College of the Dead Graduation Day, where college costs you an arm and a leg. Also, you can sign up at epicmermaids.com to find out when The Mermaids is coming out. It's the free email list. This is an ongoing full-color series I'm about to launch very soon on Indiegogo. And it's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. It's very cool, and I know you'll love it. I will see you again soon with another video, and if I don't see you, I will miss you.